A Song for Silas by Laurie Wick. Chapter 7. Silas lay on his back in bed. The vaulted ceiling was familiar, as were the smells and sights of his attic bedroom. The room was simply furnished with a bed, washstand, and dresser. Moonlight streamed through a small, yellow-curtained window and shone on Silas's clothes that were hung from a hook on the wall. Next to the clothing was a small wooden chair. For Silas there was a strange sense of comfort in seeing everything as he remembered. Silas had the same feeling with Grant and Amy, even though there had been changes. The three of them had talked about an hour to get reacquainted, and Silas was amazed at how welcome they had made him feel. It was as if they had never been separated. As he lay musing, Silas remembered that Amy had said something about a robbery. He would have to ask her tomorrow. Right now he was too tired to think. He knew the morning would bring hard work. Not that he had ever been afraid of work, but getting a good night's sleep was beginning to blot out all other thought. He knew this was where God wanted him, and it gave him a feeling of contentment as he drifted off to sleep that could only be matched by that of the two people readying for sleep downstairs. Amy had never prepared for bed so slowly. Her mind kept going over and over the events of the last 2 hours when Silas had appeared in the barn, and then seeing her look of surprise mirrored on Grant's, when Silas's large frame had filled her father's bedroom doorway. Silas carried with him an air of confidence that brought with it a sense that all was going to be well. 4 years ago, God had given Amy a big brother, for 6 weeks, in the form of Silas Cameron. Silas had come to them like an armored knight in days of old, at a time when their pain and confusion over losing their wife and mother was so great they didn't believe their world would ever be normal and happy again. Quiet and sensitive, Silas had offered comfort and stability in his warm, gentle way. Amy had never known a better listener. She smiled to herself as she began to brush her hair. Silas was back, and everything was going to be just fine. For the first time in over 2 weeks, Grant's mind was not on the throbbing in his leg as he tried to fall asleep. Silas Cameron! Who would have thought God's answer to his prayers would be Silas Cameron? Grant had never even thought of him as he had prayed and asked God to help them through this time of hurt. But he was here, and Grant knew all was going to be well. Amy had been an angel, but Grant could see the extra work was weighing on her. She was used to the long hours and even the milking, but not the handling of the milk cans and all of her regular work besides. Grant had also been more than a little worried about borrowing from savings to hire field help. But the crops had to be planted, and as frustrating as Grant's helplessness was, it didn't change that fact. If the crops did not go in, money from savings would be needed to buy feed for his stock. He would be forced to buy through the winter and until next year's harvest, a very unsettling thought. Silas can do the planting and take over the milking and hauling. I'll get back on my feet, and by the fall I will be off my back and ready for harvest. These were the thoughts with which Grant fell asleep.